Oh man, I I have really bad seasonal allergies right now. My throat's really scratchy, my eyes are watery, and I'm sneezing a lot. So if any of that happens during this review, just bear with me. It's really bad, but not bad enough to talk about the latest DC movie.
Daily Bats, I choose you as champion. Say my name so my powers will become yours. Shazam.
So Shazam is a movie about a character I know nothing about, and I'm not gonna pretend to know anything about, but it is a movie from a director I know a little bit about. His name is David F. Sandberg, and he has directed movies like Lights Out and Annabelle Creation, as well as a lot of little short horror films on YouTube. And this is a director that I've been mildly interested in, mainly because he came from YouTube, and now he's making gigantic Hollywood blockbusters. But he's not a director that I've found myself liking all that much. Lights Out I thought really sucked. I didn't like any of that movie. And Annabelle Creation is basically the most cookie-cutter, run-of-the-mill, bland horror movie you could possibly imagine. So going into Shazam, I didn't expect a whole lot. I expected competent visuals and a lackluster story with cringy humor. And that's kind of the vibe I was getting from the trailer. And so when I went in with no expectations at all, and I came out having really enjoyed myself. I think this is not only the best DC movie, but I honestly agree with a lot of people when they say that it's the best DC movie since The Dark Knight. Now, I'm not implying that this movie is as good as that movie is. It's not anywhere near as good as The Dark Knight. That is one of the best comic book movies ever made, if not the best. It's up there for sure. But Shazam doesn't have a lot of competition. I mean, Man of Steel gave me a headache. Wonder Woman was incredibly bland and boring. Batman vs. Superman was convoluted and confusing. And since this doesn't have a whole lot of competition over at Warner Brothers, it sweeps in and steals the show. And again, it's by no means a good movie. It's not really that great at all, but it's entertaining, and it manages to do what DC has been trying to do for the past few movies, in that it is actually fun. It's actually an entertaining, enjoyable comic book movie. They flubbed Justice League and tried to make a hodgepodge movie out of a Zack Snyder movie, and it ended up being a nightmare. And they made Aquaman, which was completely tone-deaf and insane and ridiculous. But this movie, Shazam, is the first one that has managed to be a cohesive whole and entertaining.
Wait, for real?
Say, okay? Say my name.
This is clearly directed by one guy, and it's not a nightmare, so that's a plus. But at the same time, this movie is also incredibly bland, and that's honestly my biggest issues with it. The cinematography, the direction, the visuals in general are just really mundane, really bland and boring. Like, the set design is just, hey, they're in a house. Oh, there's this mystical lair that they're in. It's just some rocks. There's like a couple chairs. Just a lot of this movie is pretty bland. That there's no better way to say it. And of course, in the vein of superhero movies, you have the bad cliche writing with the bullies of this school picking on some kids, and you have this motiveless, uninteresting, two-dimensional villain that gets dispatched at the end of the movie and is completely uninteresting, even though there's a little kernel in the credits that includes him, so we'll see how that goes. And the characters aren't anything that crazy. I mean, the main character is just a foster kid that runs away from home and then learns that family's nice, and that's his character arc. Just not that interesting overall. Everything that this movie does, as far as these things go, it's very bland. I keep saying that, but there's no better way to describe it.
This is proof of authenticity. Super strength. Electricity manipulation. Hyperspeed.
I'd like to purchase some of your finest beer, please.
But I think where this movie really shines is in its humor, its sense of humor, and Zachary Levi specifically. Zachary Levi completely steals the show. The first act of this movie is just centered around this young kid and his foster home experiences, and I found all of that to be utterly boring and stupid. Everything in the first act I just didn't like at all. The first act made me incredibly nervous for the movie because it was so boring and so stupid and cliche. But the moment Zachary Levi shows up on screen, he just oozes charisma, and it's almost impossible not to be infected by his personality. He just steals this movie. If he wasn't in this lead role, I'm not sure that I would have liked this as much. Him playing a kid playing a superhero was incredibly entertaining, and what I really loved about this movie is that it never loses its sense of humor throughout the entire runtime. Even when things get serious, it manages to find the humor in the serious moments in a way that feels genuine. Like when kids are playing superheroes, they don't exactly know how to be superheroes, so when they're fighting a superhero, they say dumb things, they do dumb things, and there's actual humor in that. And it never goes away. And on the note of humor, I can't say I was really laughing out loud at this movie, but I found myself smiling semi-consistently. It really did win me over in the second and the third acts. I think this movie honestly just gets better and better the longer it goes on, if you can sit through the boring, mundane, bland, cliche, stupid first act. And if you can get over the bland, boring, mundane, cliche villain, I think there is a lot to like here. The performances are solid, Zachary Levi is incredible, and it's just an entertaining movie from back to front. It's paced well, and it just kind of works. There's not much more I can say about it than that. I don't really want to spoil it because it's not even officially out yet, but I'd say go see it. I'll probably give it a 6, so that's the best score I've given a DC movie in 10 years, 11 years. So, yeah, not bad. Not bad, DC. You finally did something right. You finally wrote a script that actually worked, even though the direction's pretty boring. Not bad.
Hi, my name is... What? My name is... My name is...